segmentation I've been talking about. For instance, the freedom you want in the neck, for instance, is not in the neck itself. It's really at the base of the neck and at the top of the neck, right down at the seventh cervical, or where the thoracic vertebrae connect. Across there and across the shoulders there is a place where, if you imagined, actually right through your bone, if you imagine that's where you are split, in a sense, or separated, that is a healthy form of segmentation, as opposed to imagine that your neck is in any sort of... When you say neck free, people, unbeknownst to themselves, may be imagining something silly, like their neck is, let's say free in the middle of the neck. The middle of the neck can be quite sturdy. It could be a block of wood. From my point of view, the neck itself does not have to be any more supple than it is. If up by the, I'm no expert in the skeleton. What's that? The occipital, or the very top of the spine. If that section and the very top of the spine down to the shoulders can be thought of as fairly unsupple, except for a vertical split. I'm getting all confused here, but if you put this drawing I send up, it'll make sense. Sorry, Luke, I don't think I gave you the clearest of images right there, but I do recommend that they read that article. Okay?
Yeah. Like one thing I do with my students to try to wake them up kinesthetically is I just toss a Nerf football at them and just try to, wake them up out of the Alexander trance.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like this is the real world we're living in.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, that...
How do you... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, how do you teach direction and this basic Alexander principle of, thinking about your width and your length, and how do you go about teaching that to your new coming students?
Okay, well, let me make this clear. I have students at this my point right now. Actually, right at this point right now, I have 0 students. I get students from time to time, and they come and go. So, probably my greatest over the years, my greatest support for my work has come by people, writing, emailing me, and so forth on the internet, and sending pictures of themselves or whatever. I just don't want to leave the impression that I've been some sort of a successful, fully laden teacher of the Alexander technique. In fact, I'm afraid that my failure in that area, I think, has been my success, because I kept on plugging away at this. But remind me, please. I do want to go into that a bit. Remind me.
Yeah. How do you teach direction? How do you teach the idea of sending direction through your body? Well,
I don't tend to find that anything more is necessary than the image is, to me, the image is both inhibition and direction wrapped up together. For instance, if I have you imagine that you're sitting in a chair and you are not just yourself sitting in that chair, but you're turning into what I call a lamb and egg, which you could show here. The very act of trying to imagine something as bizarre as that is, and the act of little by little placing those visual images in front of you, and then maybe trying to place them on your own body kinesthetically, that very act is very inhibitory. You cannot do it in the middle of doing a lot of other things. if your mother's muscles are twitching and you just want to get up real badly, or you won't even get near success with the image. But the moment that you have a good success with the image is the very moment when you have inhibited all interfering activities that, in a sense, cloud that image from taking place. And simultaneously, let's say you want to get out of the chair and you've imagined you're a lamb and egg. Well, I guess maybe the only thing I would suggest is you just imagine that egg rocks, you know. Right now I just imagine that myself as a lamb and egg just rocked forward, you know, like Humpty Dumpty, only I didn't fall down, I popped up. As a matter of fact, even as you're standing, you can, if with practice, you can imagine you really don't have legs on the floor, but you're still a lamb and egg, sort of in a floating position. So, is that direction? Well, it's, I'd have to say that it brings about this imagery, not just that, but the whole series, it brings about changes in me, and have brought about changes in it's starting to be more and more people that inhibits misuse and gives them healthy direction. Am I leaving something out there?
Yeah. No, that was great. Do you think that the Alexander technique could ever be as popular as, for instance, yoga?
Yeah, that was an interesting. Where did I run across that? I think maybe you were interviewing Robert Rickover about that. And my own thought is no. You know, but I think it. And posture release imagery probably has even less of a chance. Although I think that posture release imagery could intrigue people just because it exposes itself in a way. You know, you got a bunch of images to think that I think do intrigue people, but just the same, it's asking of us non-doing, and non-doing is just a mystery until we have had enough experience with that. It's a big mystery to people. You know, when you're learning how to do something, you want to learn what to do. And so when you're talking about popularity, it could be maybe made popular if someone could communicate to a larger population the beauty and perhaps the not only the beauty of non-doing, but how it's attainable by people who plenty of us don't spend very much of any time. Even all of us in the Alexander Technique world, we go around doing a lot. We have our faults. Many of us have to play with our shortcomings throughout our life, even if we're very good teachers. And I actually wish that teachers would be a little bit honest about that. I'm really happy with how my body works, but it can jam up on me. I go for a run or something, and all of a sudden my ankles are giving me trouble, and I sometimes work it out, sometimes I don't. Things like that.
How have you been changed, and how have you not been changed by your 30 years of immersion in the Alexander Technique?
Well, at this point, I guess I would have to say I owe it credit for engaging me in my own body in a way that, I investigate a lot of things from the time I was, out of college. Wilhelm Reich interested me for a while. I moved to New York City for a while to go to Reichian therapy, and I've done a lot of things with my body, but the Alexander Technique was the first thing that came along that